Hello televiewers, good evening once again and welcome to Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This day we are going to be looking at the visit of the Secretary of State of the Vatican to Cameroon, looking at the possibility for him to engage a peace and reconciliation process according to the Star newspaper. I'm sure that was the same caption for the Median and a host of other newspapers following the outing on Sunday in Bamenda. We also are going briefly to talk about what happened in Bamenda yesterday, in Boya yesterday, with the staging of a protest by those that are considered ex-Amber fighters who are now at the DDR center in Boya. There was something happened in Boya. We're going to briefly discuss the conditions and why they should even think of getting to that level. We are going to be discussing this with our panelist, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, a social entrepreneur, a politician, and an educationist par excellence, is in the house. We are glad to have you once again this evening.
Thank you, Monsieur Liu. These are very exciting topics. I hope that we'll be able to treat them with the respect that they are due and to thrash them properly so that we find lasting solutions to our problems.
We also are in the company of Mr. Marinus Amungwa. He is a maritime expert and a politician. We are glad to have you once again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leo. It's my pleasure being back on the platform here, and we actually wish to share our views and see how much impact we can attribute solutions for the long-lasting crisis. Okay.
We are also in the company of Ba Akwen. She is one of the vice presidents of the PCRN party, led by Honorable Cabral Libi. She is vice president in charge of the ladies of the diaspora. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Kom. Good evening to my co-panelists. Good evening to all the militants of the CPNR political party, and good evening to all the televiewers of my Media Prime. Well, I wanted to talk about the recent communique of the President of the Republic, issuing that all the lawsuit against Atanganakuna should be held, should stop. My question is, why should he give that kind of instruction? Is it that Atanganakuna really has already paid the money which he was being accused of embezzling, or is it that he has, come back to the policies of his president? So it's an issue that really bothers me, and I need answers, really important answers. Thank you.
We discussed that last week on this platform when we got that information. Okay. We are going to also be talking with Ndifo Richard, who is out there in the United States of America. He is a civil society advocate, but also a Fulbright scholar out there in a university in California. Good evening, Ndifo, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Leonard, and thanks for having me. I don't know why I can't see you guys. I would have loved to see you guys too, but I can't see you guys. I'm only seeing a blank screen here, and I'm barely hearing you. So please, if you could work on the audio so that I can get you clearly, it would be great.
Okay, to say that you are a Fulbright scholar at the University of Central Florida. I will start the program with you, and for Richard, you are out there, you are following developments back here. The arrival to Cameroon of the Secretary of State for the Vatican, do you see it like other diplomats who have been to Cameroon in the likeness of the Secretary Generals of the Commonwealth, the United Nations, amongst others? Do you think something different could come out of this visit?
Leonard, I doubt very much. I really doubt. I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but I really doubt if the visit of this guy from the Vatican is going to change anything greatly, because we have had all of this, like you mentioned, we have had all of this international individuals coming to Cameroon, and all we hear from them it's only talk, calling on the government to make sure that the problems are resolved. They call for genuine dialogue, but they will do very little to follow up to ensure that the government of Cameroon is putting this into practice. I will hope that we move away from the talking and get into concrete action. Some kind of actions it's needed from the international community to force the hand of the government to take real concrete action, because most of the proposal that has been given by the international community has fallen on deaf ear, because the government listen to them, they come here, they give their proposals, and at the end of the day, the government takes what it thinks is necessary for him to consider, and they take their own approach, which is in most cases very far away from the proposals made by the international community. So talking about the visit of this of the Vatican, I will expect very little coming from there, except that this is going to be followed up with some concrete action.
Did you follow the outing of the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Bamenda on Monday, and some of the points he raised? He said that your presence in Bamenda would be likened to that of a biblical, a biblical setting, where he says, a people that walk in darkness have seen a great light. It was, something like that. That the fact that he is in Bamenda, the people in the northwest and southwest region were actually not sure of where they were going to, but the presence of the diplomat from the Vatican gives them hope to think that something, they can now say that they see, they can see lights at the end of the tunnel.
Going by that statement from the Archbishop, that we will be looking at that from a purely spiritual perspective. If we are hoping for some kind of miracle to happen spiritually, all right. As a Christian, I believe that the Lord can perform miracles, and I think that it is from that kind of perspective that the bishop is looking at it. But if we have to be more concrete, look at it from the eyes of the ordinary person, the ordinary human, the mortal that you and I we will want to think that we cannot only rely on the spiritual aspect of it. Well, the bishop is talking, and he believes in what he's talking, and like I said, he is talking from the perspective of a spiritual person, from the spiritual realms. But if you ask my opinion, I honestly do not really think that we should just fold our arms and rely on. It is good we pray and hope that something magically will happen, but I think there is need for this regime, because the regime in place has proven to be stubborn. They've proven to be really stubborn, and I think that I don't even believe that they even listen to the preaching of the bishop or to any man of God or whatsoever.
Okay.
I think that they need some kind of heavy hand, some kind of sanction from the international community to force the government to do something.
Okay, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, you also have been following up developments since the arrival to Cameroon of the Secretary of State for the Vatican, his arrival reception by the Prime Minister and the President of the Republic. You think there are some reasons to have some hope in his arrival?
Yes, Mr. Ndifo, he sees it differently.
Okay.
But I would say that I've been following this crisis for as long as they've been existing. I didn't just start following them in 2016. I mean, we've been talking about them for I don't know how long. And so I've been looking at every aspect of it every day until today. And I want to say that after a storm There must be daylight. There must be daybreak, and we are at dawn. And when the cardinal shows up, he's the bearer of good news. And you know, if you are looking for peace or you're looking for a way forward, and someone shows up and you don't believe him based on your past experiences, then that is a huge mistake. You remember from the Bible the story of Naaman, where Naaman, the Syrian general who had leprosy, it was the slave girl who said, go to Israel and there you would see a prophet who would help you. And then he goes to Israel and sees this prophet, I think it's Elijah, and the prophet says, and the prophet does not even come out to receive him. He says, go and bathe yourself in the river Jordan 7 times. And then he's like, you don't even come to see me, don't we have better streams? It's that kind of thing, you know. Let me say it here very clearly to all Cameroonians and anybody who cares to hear. I have my ears to the ground and I look in the crystal ball. We are going to have peace, and we are going to have genuine peace. And if you listen very carefully to what this cardinal was saying, he enumerated the steps that we are going to follow. And the most important thing in it, he asked for that genuine dialogue. When he is asking for the genuine dialogue, what are the implications? By the same statement, he is telling you that the major national dialogue was a failure. That's what he's saying. And therefore, we need a true, genuine, inclusive dialogue, and that dialogue will be the Swiss talks. And when those Swiss talks comes, there will be peace. Take it or leave it. That's how it's going to be. Violence is not going to help. Buying more guns left and right, both sides, is not helping. Killing both sides is not helping. You can, like I have said before, you can kill all Anglophones, the ones that are still even unborn. That is not the solution to the Anglophone problem. The solution to the Anglophone problem is to face the problem and solve it. And the cardinal comes to say the killing is enough. And when the Pope says stop, he means stop. If you think the Pope is not serious, then you are fooling yourself. When he says stop, he means stop. And when the Pope is saying stop, the other big world powers are behind him and they're also saying stop, and we had better be wise and we must stop. That's both sides. The government should stop, and the people who are sponsoring the amber for wherever should stop, and we come to that table and talk. Once we have talked and gotten things right, if anybody misbehaves, then he is treated like a criminal. So I think it's time for us to stop these stupid killings. It's time for us to do what is right, what is just, and what is good. And I want everybody to be positive.
Okay, Mr. Mungwa, when you listened, because I followed the outing of the time to inform him of what is happening, but he tells you that the Pope is very, very aware of what is happening in Cameroon.
Yeah, that's very true. When you look at the historic or religious relationship between Cameroon in particular and the Vatican, you would agree that the Vatican itself pays more attention to Cameroon, which is a very big privilege. I think Cameroon and Cameroonians as a people have hosted almost all the popes in the last decade. So this goes ahead to tell us how much the Vatican holds Cameroon at heart. And the end of year speech of the Pope itself, he prayed for peace and stability to regain Cameroon, mostly the southern Cameroon crisis. That was his greatest wish. And shortly after, we saw his special envoys being dispatched to come in person. That speaks a lot of volume. Even the blind should be able to feel and touch that every year has an end. I'm strongly convicted that not too long from now, we shall be enjoying peace and stability back in Cameroon, which is going to foster what the common man in particular has lost, the privilege of human being. The refugees who have been out due to this crisis will certainly be coming back. I strongly believe that the tete-to-tete dialogue which the special envoys of the Pope sends to Cameroon is a meaningful and a faithful one, which the head of state, President Paul Biya, will not take it lying down. It didn't only end there. He had to proceed to Bamenda, where he offered a pontifical mass with other state government officials present. And I want to first of all call on all Cameroonians to have the faith, to have the conviction that every beginning has an end. Not so long from now,
okay,
we will be enjoying the peace and stability back in Cameroon.
Okay, addressing the mammoth crowd that came out, Cardinal Pauline said that the desire of the Pope and the Church is for peace and reconciliation, to return to the land he described as a wonderful land, and also made mention of the fact that the war is spiritual, using those biblical narratives to say that the warfare is not carnal, and they are mighty, pulling down of strongholds. Those were his words. But now, when we say, he says the desire is for peace and reconciliation to take place in Cameroon, what is the spirit that should follow this? Because declaring that we want peace and reconciliation, there is something that should accompany it.
Understand that from the beginning of this crisis, Vatican has so been interested in these crises. You know, when President Paul Biya visited Vatican in the beginning of this crisis, I believe that the Pope told him spoke of the Anglophone problems, and he made mention that he should look for solutions to solve this problem. And when we see the special envoy of the Secretary of State of Vatican, Pietro Cardinal Parolin, coming to Cameroon for a personal assignment sent by the Pope, it means that the Pope has in heart Cameroon. The Pope has in mind the troubles, the pains, and the sufferings that Cameroonians, especially those in the northwest and southwest regions, have been facing. And we also noticed that during this visit, he first of all he was welcomed by His Excellency President Paul Biya and the Prime Minister, John Gute. And when he visited Bamenda for these, because these are the zones that are in trouble, you will notice that he spoke of reconciliation and peace coming back to these regions. When we talk of reconciliation, it means that the both parties should come to a compromise. It means that when the church, you will notice that the Catholic Church has power. The Catholic Church worldwide has power, and it is a religious body that deals with spirituality. As it said that he used some spiritual terms. So I think that he made mention of that because it is satanic. It is a satanic spirit that has entered in the both parties. Because the rampant killings, the kidnaps, and the beheadings of our women, our children, and the dispatchment of fellow Cameroonians out of their regions is not really natural. It is something spiritual that has gone beyond human comprehension. So I think that the special envoy of the Pope to Cameroon is a positive one to me. It's a way forward, and we believe that the solutions, or one of the conditions he gave, that we should come to a roundtable dialogue, and that the other party should, both parties should drop their arms and come out to talk. I believe that it is a positive thing, and it will bring us to somewhere that will lead us to peace.
Okay, when the Cardinal Pauline talks of people dropping their arms, why do people think that he's talking to one side? He says, down the arms. Professor Mark, you came late. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, why do people only put a fixed to one side, everybody has to drop their arms?
Mr. Leo, it is obvious that the military can't drop their arms because they are the legal, let me use the legal force of the country,
gun
and they have the right to carry the arms. But dropping arms, I'm sure he's simply talking of let's cease fire and then get to the table for discussion. It is not all about dropping arms, abandon the arms, because in relation to that statement, the military can never drop their arms. And Mr. Leo, you see, a lot of us, we have a positive mindset concerning the visits of the Secretary of State of Vatican to Cameroon, but we should not forget that he's not going to use a magic wand to change the situation. The Pope had been interested in this situation before. He had spoken concerning it. We had received various envoys from different nations coming to Cameroon. We have received, in fact, the UN Secretary General had visited Cameroon. So it is just but normal that this visit will take place. And one thing I also want to say concerning the whole peace process is this. Peace basically is a spiritual component. And it's not something that happens because somebody just wanted that, okay, I should have peace. Peace is something that is internal. Peace is an inner tranquility that results from an inner balance that an individual has. When somebody is having balance within, there is the resultant consequence is peace, both externally and within. And those are some of the things that, as the spiritual authority coming to Cameroon, when it talks of peace, most of us will look at it from that viewpoint of, okay, we need a balance within. We need to cure the wounds that we have within. We need to deal with what is troubling us, that is causing us to get to this point. Which indirectly, when he says we need to get to the table for dialogue, he's simply saying deal with the root causes of this problem that is resulting to destabilization, that is resulting to creating this situation in which you find yourself, a war situation. So when you listen to the Secretary General, I should put it, the Secretary of State, let me put it like that, of Vatican, in that sense, as a diplomat, he speaks what he thinks that he has spoken to the president from a diplomatic position. He came to the church during the period of I think the official handover of the Archdiocese of Bamenda Archdiocese to Kmer, Archbishop Kmer. He declared and proclaimed spiritual words. If you heard him well, he spoke of truth. He spoke of justice. Those are words that they don't just fall on the table. Those are words that are generated through inner meditation. Those are what things that you don't just get them. And in Cameroon, if you notice, Cameroon is a nation that is occultic. I mean, when I'm talking of precisely leadership in Cameroon is occultic inclined. And apart from that, in Cameroon, we have lies that have been enthroned, which, I mean, from both sides. When you hear ministers claiming that everything has come to normalcy when there is still killing and there's war still happening, you see that those are lies. The president is sitting in Yaoundé listening to those things and feeling like, okay, things are coming to normal. People are deceiving him and they are lying to him every day. You hear the other way, the Amber boys who see, and I mean those who are sitting in abroad, they'll claim that, oh, they are winning the war. This is that. So when they speak like that, there is this desire for people to want to put on pressure to see that things come to an end. And the more that desire to see things come to an end is in the hearts of people, this is something that happens. Those who are having arms, they want to press on to see that, okay, let's finish with the whole thing, let it be done. Those who are using diplomacy want to say, okay, let's talk things fast. But Mr. Leo, the peace, the truth, the justice that Parolina was presenting to Bamenda people and to the Cameroonians as a whole has to do more with things that are spiritual than just physical. And I want to believe that, though we believe that those are the magical words that needs to solve the problem. To get them is where we have a problem.
Okay.
And to get them, there is need for a dialogue, for us to go to the dialogue table.
Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, we are talking of the need for peace and reconciliation. It is a process. Is the time ripe for it? Or there is still some work that has to be done before we start thinking of peace and reconciliation? Is this the time?
In fact, you will remember that when people had had more than enough of this, and then the government with the international community, they worked out the major national dialogue. In fact, everybody was like, oh, at last, let's have some peace. But again, as we are saying, you know, just like anything, we are not used to excellence. And therefore, everybody thinks the joker has been taken out, and then we are going to have that great solution. But unfortunately, you know, we break principles and think that just because we can give orders and break principles, you know, things will happen. Let me say it again. You know, God is in his magnanimity, in his kindness, has given us principles to help and guide us. And God doesn't care whether you're president, whether you're prime minister, whether you are a strip sweeper, whether you are a general. God doesn't care. It's un fou. When you follow the principles, you'll be okay. If you go against the principles, nature takes its time. And until you align with the principles, you're not going to get too far. And in whatever you do, there must be truth. If you bypass the truth, there will never be peace. It doesn't matter how you go up, you come down. If you bypass the truth, there will never be peace. And at the major national dialogue, we failed. We intentionally, not that we didn't know, but we thought that we could bypass the truth and get away with it. No. If you bypass the truth, nature will take its time and wait for a second turn, and we are now going to the second turn. So it is time lost. You see, it's very, very embarrassing. You see, like what just happened with the football. Yesterday, or is it Sunday, we were playing against the Congolese. In the morning, more than almost all their team was COVID positive. And then when they made so much noise by afternoon, it was negative. What happened? So it is this kind of a behavior where we cannot be trusted. We cannot be trusted in small and big things that is killing us, and it is physically and spiritually killing a lot of people. And we're just doing the wrong things and thinking that we are getting away with it. It cannot happen that you do the wrong thing and you get the right result. Only the truth can set us free. And if we missed it last time, we cannot afford to miss it now. We cannot afford to miss it now. And the Swiss talks are going to come, and everything will be done. And everything will be redone again. The country will be united. There will be peace. And then in West Cameroon, all those elections that were in West Cameroon, they will be taken all over again. And most of those things will be corrected, because as of now, they are not.
Yeah, but how do you get the United Cameroon at the Swiss talks? Are you so certain? Are you in the minds of the other side that is coming to
the Swiss talks? The Swiss talks will take place, and everybody will come there and express their minds, would excuse ourselves, and will look at the reality and go for reality.
Okay. And for Richard, we are talking about peace and reconciliation. It is a process, a very complex process. You master the dynamics on ground in and out of Cameroon. How do we get there?
Yes, like Dr. Nick just pointed out, there is the need for us to be honest to ourselves. There is the need for us to accept certain things, admit certain things before we move ahead. If we keep trying to deny the obvious and keep trying to turn corners and think that we can get to the end somehow, then we'll always finally go round and come back to the same spot. You see, first of all, let me say that I was not in any way undermining the power of God in intervening in the situation. But at the same time, I believe that we cannot rely on God and fold our arms and sit and wait for magic to happen. Even the priests and the pastors tell us that while they pray, we still need to do something forgot to help us to go through it. So the point I'm trying to make here is the fact that the government of Cameroon, I still push this responsibility to the government of Cameroon because they are the authority here. They are the people in power. They are the ones who are in control. And if we will have to get anywhere close to peace or to reconciliation, then the government in place will have to do something more than what they are doing. And what is it they have to do? Now, when we talk about national dialogue, we keep talking about this issue of national dialogue. I am one of those who believe that the national dialogue did not intend to solve this problem. It did not intend to solve the problem of Anglophones, the Anglophone crisis. The national dialogue intended to solve a national problem. Maybe there were some national issues where the Anglophone problem is part of those national issues. That is what was handled. If we need to solve the Anglophone crisis specifically, then we need a dialogue specifically for the Anglophones. And this dialogue will mean that we will have Anglophones on the one hand, and we'll have the government of Cameroon on the other hand, and we sit on the table and we discuss. This is not a problem between Anglophones and Cameroon, or Cameroonians, so to speak. It's a problem between Anglophones and the government, which for a very long time now has been ignoring some of their grievances. And so it is important for this government to recognize and admit this fact. Admit that there is a group of people called the Anglophones, or call them the English-speaking Cameroonians, who have a particular grievance, or they have grievances that are peculiar to them as Anglophones. We know that there are problems everywhere in Cameroon. We are not denying that. We are not disputing that fact. But there is a big problem, and this problem is a problem that is peculiar to Anglophones, and therefore we need to sit down with these Anglophones and have this conversation with Anglophones, have this conversation with them one-on-one. If there is a need to come back to a national dialogue, we should start by solving this smaller problem before going to the bigger problem. And just quickly, Leonard, before I hand over the microphone, if I just use this analogy of a family, you will realize that in a family, there might be a bigger family problem. But if there is a child in that family that has a peculiar problem, you cannot just believe that, and that child complains, you cannot just now call a family meeting and bring in all the family problems and mix them up with that child's problem to the extent that the problem even gets missing within the family problem. And then you find a solution that is a solution for a family problem, and you try to attribute it as a solution to a problem of that particular child that he has been crying and raised. So therefore, the government of Cameroon, it is important for them to find a solution that is peculiar to the Anglophone problem, and that solution lies in the institutions of Cameroon. It's an institutional problem. It has to do with the constitution, it has to do with the form of the state, and it has to do with so many other things. And until we admit this and bring these things to the table, then we'll only be beating around the bush, we'll only be talking and going round the circle and coming back to the same spot. Okay.
Mr. Mungwa, you have followed Dr. Nick and and for Richard. They think that there is need for a remake of the major national dialogue that took place in Yaoundé.
Yeah, in fact, in my opinion, coupled with what Dr. Nick said and Sandifo, I think the government actually is supposed to call for another genuine dialogue. The previous dialogue held, and both of us have the hopes that it was going to end the crisis, but unfortunately the crisis escalated after the major dialogue, meaning there were still some loopholes, and some of the issues were not well addressed as to the expectations of this crisis. I'm actually calling on the government to reschedule another genuine national dialogue.
Okay, another national dialogue.
Yes.
Okay.
With respect to the number of lives we are losing on a day-to-day basis, being on the side of our military soldiers, side of the separatists. These are all Cameroonians, and economic-wise, we are losing a lot, and it doesn't paint the image. Cameroon used to be a country, a lot of emulation for peace within our continent and beyond. But today, that is not the case. So, it is high time we actually face the truth. Biblically, Christ said, if you trust and believe in me, I am the way, the will, and there will be life. So if we are honest, by scheduling another genuine dialogue, I trust we're going to trust our crisis, and will bring forth to an end where peace and stability can reign.
Okay. The Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Bamenda described the arrival of the Secretary of State for the Vatican as they described him as the messenger of peace. Yes, everybody's talking about peace. What peace? How do we get the peace actually manifested in the Southwest and Northwest region? Just bearer of peace. What message?
I am positive of the fact that the visit of the Secretary of State to Vatican will yield some results. But I fear about the cosmetic character traits of those that are governing us. Because, you know, this government in place always has, you know, they are very stubborn, they are very recalcitrant, and they do things the way they like. They always need you to, you know, criticize them before they come to, you know, a positive decision. Because I am wondering why, because what really calls my attention is that this cardinal from Vatican has already spoken with the president, because the president was the first person that received him.
The prime minister received him, then the president.
Then the president. Why is it that he still sent Ferdinand Gongo to Bamenda? That's the question. Don't you think that the presence of Ferdinand Gongo was like a spy to listen to what Andrew, the Archbishop of Bamenda, will say? It could be like an influence to, you know, tell him to shut up your mouth to some very important things, not to tell the special envoy of the Pope of Vatican. They will
speak in Latin now?
No, they will speak in Latin, but the presence of Ferdinand Gongo really influences the truth that could be released by Andrew in Bamenda.
Isn't it possible that he pens down everything that is happening and then hands it to the Secretary of State?
Mr. Com, you will accept with me that if you are not on the ground, you will not know what is happening. That is what is happening with our president. You know, they tell him things he does not know, and he just believes because he's stagnant. I can call him a stagnant president, because he does not really take time to visit what is happening in his country. He listens and, you know, he draws conclusions. It could still be the same thing with the Pope. He might have listened, or he might listen to what the results of what he's envoyed in Bamenda will bring to him. So I think that it is a political game to me. There is something fishy, because normally Ferdinand Gongo was not supposed to be in Bamenda. He was not supposed to be there for me. And, you know, because when I call this government a stubborn government, it is not because I really want to call them that. It is because they are known for that. When the special envoy of Vatican said that there is need for peace and reconciliation, did he really state the conditions to which this peace will come to pass? No, because normally the government knows who to talk with. And those that are supposed to be spoken with are not in the country. There are these guys who are living out of the country. Is it that they are going to grant them amnesty? Is it that the conditions which this dialogue, the inclusive dialogue that is preached by everybody, would take place? Is it that the conditions will be met? Those are some questions that needs to be arose, because we cannot just be singing, he has said reconciliation, he has spoken of peace. Are the conditions really favorable for this internal or inclusive dialogue to take place? Those are the most important things we are supposed to talk about, because we cannot keep singing when the conditions are not really favorable. We should call for amnesty for these guys. We should call them back. They should call for a ceasefire, as he said, on the both parties. But I heard my co-panelists saying that, you know, the military cannot really drop their guns because they are trained for that. Yes, but I call that they should do their job responsibly. They should do their jobs responsibly. They should be there. They should be there to guide these citizens, not killing them. Because we saw the cases of the 4 kids that were being killed in Bamenda recently. We don't know why they were killed, but we had a communique that said these boys were separatist fighters. So you will agree that the government is a cosmetic government. The government is a stubborn government that don't really listen, because it is not the first time that Vatican has spoken about these problems. International bodies have spoken, but they haven't moved. They still remain stagnant. They refuse to talk about the important things like, you know, the form of the state. You know, those are the very important things we are supposed to bring out.
He is the messenger of peace, and that he's there to promote, he's a promoter of justice. How do we see the promoter of justice in action? From every indication, they are offering to play that mediation role between the government and the separatists. Is this also a great step ahead?
Yes, Mr. Leo. Normally,
or Dr. Nick would prefer that they only end up at the Swiss top.
Normally, on normal basis, Mr. Leo, before, even if they are going to have mediations wheresoever in the world, there is need for a mediator. And it is necessary that somebody should show forth like that mediator. And I believe that the church will be a better mediator than just a political leader of a particular nation somewhere, or might be the Secretary of State of the United States, or might be the United Nations Secretary General. I believe the church would better play the part of a mediator. And so if the Roman Catholic Church is showing this green light that they are ready to play that part as mediators, I believe, and I will still say this, there is no dialogue that can be held in Cameroon that will practically resolve the problem that we are having right now. So even if we pray for dialogue, to what level, those boys and those guys over there will not want to sit in Cameroon to solve this problem. So if there's going to be a dialogue or a mediation or a round table sitting, that cannot happen in Cameroon. So there is need for it to happen. So I want to say something, Mr. Liu, concerning the Roman Catholic Church. You see, if you look very well, when should I say the president of the ecclesiastical council, is this so? That's how they call it, the Roman Catholic Ecclesiastical Council in Cameroon? They wrote to the president asking for audience to meet and talk. Since he wrote, there has been no response. That is the church in Cameroon. That's the Roman Catholic Church in Cameroon. I was presenting something on a sister.
But what we have to understand here is that he is on a dual mission. He is here
as a diplomat,
yes,
and as the head of
the church,
representative of the head of the church.
Yes.
So he's playing both rules.
Yes.
Yes. But we are not looking at Vatican as the state that is going to interfere in the affairs of Cameroon. We are looking at a spiritual representation. I don't know what he said to the president in Yaoundé. I don't know what he said to the prime minister. But what he said in Bamenda is what we are discussing more on. He spoke on a spiritual platform. And so when we are looking at it, like I would say, Mr. Leo, we are not expecting any foreign body or European body to solve this problem. But when it comes to a spiritual body like the church, we don't care where the church leader is coming from. We believe that they can play that influence that we need. But if it comes to Europeans coming to solve our problems, they will still create more problems. So I will be sincere. It is true that the Vatican Secretary of State is coming in dual positions. Is coming like a diplomat, at the same time is coming as a spiritual head. but we are looking at that spiritual dimension of them. And that is what makes me to believe that they can become better mediators than any other leader from any other nation. So my focus cannot be the diplomat. My focus is the spiritual leader.
Okay.
And we believe that spiritual aspect of them has a greater role to play, because for long in the different parts of the world, we have not seen Vatican as a diplomatic nation working to bring peace. We have seen it as a spiritual body coming to solve problems around the world. And so that is where our focus should be.
Okay. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, other persons, while we talk about the need for a peace and reconciliation, others are trying to take us back to what we saw in South Africa, where we had rather the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a court-like restorative justice body that was set up, and with different commissions that were supposed to handle different aspects with respect to the apartheid. Do you think we need such a body in Cameroon? Oh, we already have the organs from the Major National Dialogue.
No, we want to go ahead.
Okay.
We want to go ahead, and to solve this problem, please, I beg you, just forget about Major National Dialogue, because it's bringing confusion.
No,
wait. I'm just begging you, with all Cameroonians. We want the Anglophone problem solved. And the Bible says that you don't put new wine into old wine skins. It's a principle. I first told you that nature works on principles. Don't do wrong things. Don't take new wine, and put it in old wine skins. It will not work. If you have an old dress that is torn, don't take a new patch and put on it. It will not work. So the Major National Dialogue, if it had to work, it would have worked. Since it has not worked, c'est à classer. Just leave it alone, because it did not work. It's a dead car with a dead engine. Now we want an aeroplane that can fly, with new pilots, with everything that is new, brand new, and it will work. So let's not mix up things. That one was a dead end, dead and buried. And anything that came out of it should not even be mentioned. We have to start all over again. And by starting all over again, there must be truth spoken in love. If you don't speak the truth in love, if you don't burst the abscess, it's a waste of time. I mean, let us stop playing these pranks up and down, up and down, up and down. We just have to. What is the best way of solving a problem? The best way of solving a problem is to face the problem, whether you like it or not, and solve it the best way that it can be done. There is no need killing people over this. There's no need destroying our nation over this. It's just human ego. It's just empty. We have to reunite. We have to form a strong nation, and we will have this dialogue. But this is another thing I wanted to say. You know, for people who have studied political sciences, there is a way of solving a conflict. It has the A, B, C, D to it. It's like Madame Akwen, you see, you want to pound a chew. There is a way. You know what I mean? You select the cocoyams, you boil them, you boil the plantains, you peel them, you get the mortar, you pound, and there's a time when you pound this and you pound that, and the way you prepare the soup, you cannot change that order. You want to cook fufu corn, you cannot take, you cannot put you cannot change it. Otherwise, you will come out with something is not fufu corn. You want to bake a cake, there is a procedure that you must follow. So when you fail to follow that procedure, it will not work. So when this thing happens, we are going to follow those steps that we saw in South Africa. None of those steps will be missed out. No, we are just going to follow the steps, whether you like it or you don't like it, and the problem will be solved. There will be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission or whatever. But just to add in a little thing, when the cardinal was saying drop your guns, he doesn't mean come and put the guns in the center. What he says, drop your guns, he says turn the barrel down, stop pulling on the trigger. Then as we start talking genuinely, the guns will just come. They could just come to the center. They will be collected. When everybody begins to trust when we begin to trust each other, what would cause the guns to to stop for real and be dropped is when we speak truth to each other. And it is that truth spoken in love that will cause us to begin to trust. I said trust. Dropping of guns cannot be decreed. No, it will not work. Dropping of guns is something that works through trust, because you didn't decree for them to take up the guns, so it's difficult for you to decree for them to drop the guns. So how do you get the guns to be dropped the world over? It is trust. And you only get that trust at a dialogue table, and then after that dialogue table you begin to do things in earnest and make things happen. Then as the trust builds up, the guns just drop. So when we try to put the cart before the horse, things don't work. Again, as I said, things work on principles and you cannot break them.
Okay. Okay. Now over to you, for Richard. Still in line with the need for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, called like restorative justice body. It will require the putting in place of the Human Rights Violation Committee to investigate cases of human rights abuses across the board and see how to actually present to everybody that this is where we went wrong. Do you think that is a sure path to take? Or we just forgive and move on?
No, it's important, Leonard, to do some kind of reconciliation. I agree almost with totally everything Dr. Nick Nwanyam said there, except for the idea of cutting and pasting the reconciliation commission that existed in South Africa. Our problem is unique, and we must find a unique solution to our problem. We cannot just go to South Africa and copy what they did and paste it in Cameroon. It will not work. We have a unique problem, and this unique problem needs a unique solution. The issue we have with the problem and why this problem keeps on dragging is because we have a government that is in denial of the fact that the problem even exists. Despite the fact that you hear them say, oh yes, we have now accepted, this government has for years refused to acknowledge that this problem exists. And they have just been pushed, and they are reluctantly admitting that the problem exists. And this is the major reason why they are not willing to find a sustainable solution to the problem. Now, what you will realize is that sometimes I keep asking myself, I don't know if before Ahijo left power, he said something to Bia about this issue that has made him to be so adamant about it, because his manner of handling this problem is one that I cannot understand, because he employs strategies that are failed strategy from day one. That is, the strategies that they are failure on arrival. That is, before they even introduce it, they have failed. If you look at this issue of national dialogue and all the other measures that this government has taken to solve this problem, they have wasted so much resources, so much money. And I want to believe that they themselves know very well that these solutions that they are proposing is not the best solution for this country.
So, are you saying
let me make my point to the logical conclusion.
Okay.
Yes, like Dr. Nick Nwanyam said, first we need to go back to the root of the problem. That is where we have to begin. We have to go back to the root of the problem, admit that there is a problem, there is a mistake that was done here, and this mistake needs to be corrected. That is where we have to begin. When we begin from there and we start solving the problem until we get to the point where we have to all together touch the Constitution, because one of the major problems is with the Constitution. We have to review the Constitution, completely amend the Constitution to fit in special issues that will be unique to the Anglophones. It is only after we must have done all of this, then we can now come back and sit down and say, okay, let us now get into a Truth and Reconciliation Commission and try to see how we can reach at the point of peace at the point of whatever. But we need to solve this problem, because when we keep shouting at the top of our voices, peace, peace, and peace, and we ignore the justice aspect of it, at the end of the day, we would have solved the problem which we would have.
But how do you get justice when you think? I've asked about the need to set up a human rights commission to look at where human rights violations were committed. How do you set the justice?
Exactly. That is why I'm saying that. First of all, we cannot start going into human rights looking at all of this when the original problem is still standing and is still pending. Until we solve that real problem which was the cause of this problem we are having now, then we can start going now to the reconciliation part of it, where we now start bringing in human rights guys to start investigating and start finding out who committed these human rights violations here and all of that. And if there is need even for punishment, for some punitive measures to be employed, those punitive measures can now come in. They can be employed. If we think that we just want to forget about some of those things and then we move forward, we can now be deciding on that in a forum where we will sit, like the Truth and Reconciliation Committee we are talking about. We will sit in that. But first of all, that is why I said this problem is different from that of South Africa. Because in South Africa, they started first by solving the original problem, which was apartheid. It was after they solved the problem of apartheid before they got to the point of talking about truth and reconciliation.
I don't know whether
we cannot leave the major problem, which is the Anglophone problem, hanging, and then we start talking about truth and reconciliation. That would be putting the cart before the horse.
Okay. I don't know whether Akwen buys your opinion. You have.
Yes, I have something to say. When you spoke of, human rights investigation, when we talk of peace and forgiveness, we forgive everything. Because when you want to solve a problem, you cannot start sweeping all the debts of the house. You're going to cause chaos. So I believe that if we want to reconcile Cameroonians, everybody should forget what A or B has done to me, and you decide to start new. Because the process of, bringing a human rights commission to investigate crimes and punishing people, it is not necessary. It is not important. When we talk of solving a problem, we talk of reconciliation, forgiveness, you free your heart. That is what I mean. And I buy the idea of him saying that for you to solve a problem, you need to touch the most important part. What was the cause for this crisis? What are the problems the Northwest and Southwesterners brought out to the table that escalated to the problems we have today? Those are the most important things, because you cannot start creating reconciliatory commissions without fishing out the problems, without accepting that this was the cause, without saying that I accept that what you said is really what is right. Because that is what the government of Cameroon has to do. Accept what the Anglophones are demanding from them. That is very important. So that is what I wanted to add to what my co-panelists from the US said.
Okay, and that was for Richard. You were taking some notes, Mr. Mungo. I don't know whether you buy strictly all of what Antifor said out there.
Well, not quite.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the factors he did mention regarding the way forward. It's true, before you solve a problem, you should be able to diagnose. Proper diagnosis should be carried out. And I trust by now, with the last crisis, the government must have diagnosed. The authors of the crisis must have realized where they went wrong as well. And if we honestly accept to face the truth, then that is where we can start providing solutions to the problems. Other than that, we'll still turn around and come back to sit again and say, no, another dialogue was created and it failed. That's why I earlier indicated that a genuine turn off this one. Yeah, sorry, I did. Yeah. Yes.
Let him land before he come in.
Indicated that a genuine dialogue needs to be rescheduled by the government, and at this juncture, I'm equally appealing that commissions with trustworthy people should be identified.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we won't be able to get out of this at this juncture.
Mm-hmm.
It's true that international bodies came in, the UN representatives, the European Union, Commonwealth, AU, and if we found the clergyman coming in at the last minute, I think he has come to crown all the other diplomatic missions that have been here, and he has just one mission and not two missions, the mission of peace and stability to regain the grounds of Cameroon.
Okay. Hello, good evening, Bruce Abe from Bamenda. It will be difficult for the problem to be solved by the sitting government since they are in denial of the problem ever existed in the first place. That is the reason all the plastic measures taken have failed. Good evening to you, Mr. Liu. Let's look since Cameroon joined for about 60 years. Let us look at what we will be benefiting if, we should be kind. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I just want to appreciate all your panelists. They are all mature. Christian Chair is also writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I enjoyed your program. See, Mr. Liu, there is nothing is going to come out from this month's visit to Cameroon. The problem in Cameroon is not solved from an outsider. I mean, the person to solve is the president, not the Pope, nor anyone. In fact, he has the yam and the knife. I believe that this man's visit is going to cause more harm than good. Etienne is also writing from Bamenda. Good evening to all of you watching us from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo. For any to be solved, it depends on the manner of approach, because an elephant view from an aeroplane in the air looks like a mosquito, and a mosquito under a microscope looks like an elephant. So if the cardinal came for the Anglophone crisis, he should have visited the two regions. Kimbeng is writing from Ngienbo. Good evening to you, Kimbeng. Greetings to you all, especially to Dr. Nick and Francis from Amenda. The coming of the cardinal is an outward show that will yield no good fruit of. All those government officials are of the same religion and knows the game. They're playing with the church and the blind followers called Christians. Okay, good evening to you too. Now, we are talking about a commission. You say for now there is no need for a commission, but somebody is also raising the issue that the solution, the definite solution to this problem cannot come from without Cameroon. Are we not also missing the point when everybody thinks that it is either in the US, it's either in Swiss, it is either in Nigeria or in Rome? Because if the Catholic Church is saying that we want to mediate, it means that they may want to take it to Italy.
Yes, you know, Mr. Combe, that is what I wanted to say, because we know that in Cameroon we have high officials that are from the Catholic Church, and we have people like Cardinal Tumi that wanted to stand like a bridge, like, you know, a mediator to solve this problem, and the government of Cameroon turned him down. So I believe that, you know, this government is playing politics or not. Why? Because they want to, you know, use these international bodies to, you know, keep us asleep. They want to dominate over our minds on their own way by bringing in people that we can term like the white man to come and tell us what they are best, to come and preach to us so that we can believe. They always minimize those that are in place. They minimize us. They minimize the Africans. They minimize the Cameroonians that they are the ones who are facing the problem. Because you cannot tell me that someone, an outsider, will come and solve problems in your homes better than you. I believe that what this Secretary of State from Vatican came to do in Cameroon, it's strictly on a political base. It is not. It will not yield a lot of fruit. Because being positive doesn't make you telling us the truth. If I am positive, I too have the responsibility to come to a plateau like this and tell the listeners the truth. Because you cannot tell me that this is the first time that the Catholic Church is interested in this problem. But the government has stayed adamant. They have stayed stagnant. They have stayed very stubborn. They do not want to solve this problem. That's the truth, Mr. Com. We should not lie. They do not want to touch the most important part. They are looking for cosmetic solutions. It is a shortcut they are trying to look by bringing in this man. Do you think that the Pope sent this man just like that? He spoke previously with the president and he said, okay, send this guy so that we can, make these people go asleep. Yes, make these people go asleep. That's what I think. And, you are
merely speculating, eh?
I am speculating, yes. Do you think that this man came just like that? Don't you think that the Pope spoke with the president? Do you think they do not communicate? They do communicate. He came here for a mission.
Are we saying that at the end of the day, there's going to be no solution to the crisis? If we have to suspect everybody, if we have to tag everybody, it means angels will come from heaven to solve this problem?
Mr. Kum, I am not suspecting everybody. What I'm trying to say...
Are you very comfortable when people tag Cabral Libby as having spoken with the President of the Republic, always suspecting?
Mr. Kum, I am not tagging somebody.
The benefit of the doubt.
That is why I said being positive doesn't make you not telling the truth, because only the truth can set us free at this very important state in our.
So there's something cooking between.
There is. It's politics, Mr. Kum, because in the beginning of this crisis, Mr. President went to Vatican and he spoke with the Pope, and the Pope spoke of this problem. It is not today. Vatican has been interested in this problem. He has said they have been speaking, but nothing has been done. The government stays stagnant. To me, I think that they are trying to look for another cosmetic measure to make us sleep. They are trying to look for another shortcut to avoid the most important things, which is the problem that caused the Anglophone crisis. They want to run away from the true fact.
Okay. Yes, Prof.
You see, Mr. Leo, Cameroonians are so religious to a state where we believe that when they see the representative of the Pope to Cameroon, already he's the one, the magical one that will shake like that and every problem will disappear. It's a lie. Even with the presence of the representative of the Pope to Cameroon, there's still no change. Even if the Pope himself comes, as long as our leaders do not come to that position where they are willing to solve this problem, it will not be solved. Even if God appears here today and those people are not willing to solve this problem, it will not be solved. So what we should be doing is we need to be directing this language to them. It is time to solve this problem because Cameroonians are suffering. We are interested in the fact that we have received the representative of the Pope to Cameroon in a dual mission. He's going to Bamenda because I heard my sister lastly said she made a statement concerning that my Bingongo was in Bamenda to kind of spy on the possible discussions that could happen between him and Archbishop Gia. Well, I might not think like that. I would just want to say, since they received him as a diplomat, it takes those moves. If he's just like the Pope who came to Cameroon, he was supposed to, if the Pope wants to go to Bamenda, the president will normally go along with him. And so in this case, it was his second that came. The person that is representing the president in that case was Ngongo.
That is the Secretary of State at the Vatican and the Secretary General at the Presidency.
So he went as a representative of the president there, not as if, I don't want to think he went to spy. But I stand with that position that we should not think that he is the person that is just coming to shake that white magical one and everything moves and we are having a solution. I heard my brother rightly said that you can't actually, I don't know whether he rightly said, but I differ with that statement because you can't claim that we should look for the source of the problem and you deny the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission is one of those commissions that is digging the truth.
That will direct towards
it digs the truth then before we talk of the justice. You can't talk of reconciliation when the people in their hearts are not actually at the table. They must have gotten to that through that commission to know exactly what the pains are, but that commission is set in order to solve the nitty-gritties that are in the hearts of people. Already, everybody knows the practical source of this problem in Cameroon. I mean, Mr. Biya knows it better than any other person. As the president of this country, he had been the Secretary of State of this country. He has been the Prime Minister of this country. So he knows this problem to his fingertips. So we can't be playing games as if the president does not know. The president knows the cause of the Anglophone problem. So those who came and told him that there is no Anglophone problem, he made them to know there is an Anglophone problem. Don't forget that he made that statement. He made them to know there's an Anglophone problem. And in relation to that, I think he would have not brought, in fact, with what we call the national dialogue that happened last 2 years, that was not a dialogue that could solve this problem, because as I mentioned earlier, that particular dialogue was a dialogue for the national problems, not for the particular problem that is taking place with the people of the Northwest and Southwest. They have a particular problem that is the reason why the country is the way it is. And so the focus should be that problem, not so many issues that they went and sat down in Yaoundé and they were discussing. And as I said, and I follow the steps of the position of Dr. Nick, that it is not a problem that will be solved sitting in Cameroon. It's a problem that is only going to be solved on a round table, and that round table can be in Cameroon, because sincerely speaking, if we try to put it in Cameroon, there is our government will always come on the high horse. And coming on the high horse will mean that he will place limits. He will say, you don't talk this, you don't talk this, you don't talk this. And the people will not come. And I'm sincere to say this. There are individuals who are involved in this crisis, who are pushing this crisis, whom until this situation is handled out of Cameroon per se, I'm not saying in Europe, in Africa, there are many places. We had a problem that happened, the Sudan problem. It was handled in within Africa. It was not handled in Europe. We have the Central African problem. It is happening, though it is happening again, but it was handled before in Cameroon, in Africa, even the Democratic Republic. So I believe, Mr. Leo, and I will be sincere with these statements, that we cannot expect magic from Europe to solve our problems. Africans know their problems, and we can solve it from home. So we should not keep talking about European influence and whatsoever that can solve our problems. It cannot do it. Whatsoever, Mr. Leo, what they call Swiss talks. That Swiss talks, to me, I don't think it is in Switzerland that our problems will either be solved. We can solve it in Nigeria. We can solve it in South Africa. We solve it in Morocco. We can solve it anywhere in Africa. Let's do it in Africa, but not in Cameroon.
Okay, not in Cameroon. Dr. Nick,
can I just come in and do some clarification before we move ahead?
Okay. Dr. Nick is patient. We are listening. Yeah, go on.
Yes. Just to talk about the issue of the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, I just want to make my point very clear from what Prof said. You see, if I have to borrow from South Africa, which is a reference point we all make, what was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? The Truth and Reconciliation Commission was a court-like situation where they had to look at the crimes that were committed during the period when Black Africans were fighting against apartheid. And some crimes were committed on both sides, on the side of the blacks who were the people who were protesting, and the government of South Africa at the time. We are talking about the situation of Cameroon. If we are talking about truth and reconciliation, then we're talking about the issue of crimes committed within this period of the war, the period where the Anglophones are fighting. Now going back to South Africa, the original problem they were fighting for was apartheid. They started by destroying apartheid before they come now to sit on the table to look at what happened during that period when they were fighting for the end of apartheid. It is the same scenario. We cannot still have this problem of the Anglophones, the grievances of the Anglophone hanging somewhere out there, and then we come and say we want to talk about truth and reconciliation of a thing that happened as a result of that original problem. So we have to go back and solve that original problem. When we are done with it, we come now to the table and we ask ourselves, what was it that this person did that was wrong? What was it that this person did that was wrong? We now open up ourselves and then we reconcile. It will not be in that Truth and Reconciliation Commission that we will come and start looking at the problems of Anglophones. It will not be there. The problem of Anglophone needs to be sorted out in a dialogue. And this dialogue should be a dialogue between Anglophones on the one hand and the government of Cameroon on the other hand. When we finish with that, we move to the next stage, which is now the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Okay, but what do you say to those who may say that because if we are talking about truth and reconciliation, it means that we are talking about the organization of a one Cameroon. We are reconciling as Cameroon. Would that be possible for persons who would tell you that we are not interested in anything Cameroon? What are you reconciling with such? Yeah,
exactly. You see, Leonard, that is where there is a problem with this issue of coming up with the issue of truth and reconciliation at this time, because that is the question some people will be asking. We are reconciling where, in which place in Cameroon? I don't belong to Cameroon, like the separatists will say. But when we now go back to solve this problem from the fact, like I said, from the two parties, the Anglophone and the government, first of all, the first stage even is for the Anglophones themselves to reconcile their position, because we have different positions, different options in the Anglophones faction. The Anglophones need to reconcile their position before they come to meet the government as a bloc. And that is what the initial conference of Anglophones that was called by the Cardinal. That conference.
Is that possible?
To reconcile this position.
Is that possible today? When you look at
it is very possible.
Okay.
It is very possible if there is the will on the part of the government and the will on the part of those who are fighting. So therefore, we need to sit down, reconcile our position as Anglophones. We meet the government, and then we present a position as a front, as Anglophones, one position. When we put this position with the government and we reach an agreement, we
have seen very many factions. Remember when the government, when news came out that the government had to talk with Ayub Tabe in prison, you saw others who said that we don't recognize him. He is not talking on our behalf. Dr. Nick is talking about the Swiss talks. We know that there are factions that say we will never identify with the Swiss talks. And then there is another group for the coalition of something coalition. The other group says we will never identify with this. Yeah. And then we have the federalists. How feasible is that that common position? Yes.
Yeah, we are talking here about a solution to a problem. And there is no way we are ever going to get to a solution if we don't find a way of sitting on the table. We will never get a solution. If we keep saying that, oh, this person does not want this other person does not want this, we will end up not having a solution. So that is why, if we are talking here today, we are talking because we want to have this conversation to find out where the solution will come from. And that is why we are saying that one way by which we can have this solution, the solution of this problem, is by us sitting on a table. We need to sit down. No matter what some people say, oh, we don't want this, we don't want that, somehow we need to sit on the table. Yeah, these individuals who are shouting, we don't want this, we don't want that, where do they belong? And on whose behalf are they speaking? And who mandated them to speak on their behalf? Those are some of the tricky questions we need to ask surrounding all of this. Okay. We need to sit down on a table and talk. There is no way we will not sit on the table and talk. And just one last thing. A lot of people talk about the fact that, oh, we don't want Europeans to come and solve our problem. Listen, we cannot keep pretending. We cannot keep pretending and say that we can solve this problem ourselves, because it is proven that we cannot. We cannot solve the problem. We don't need Europeans. We could get the African Union to come in. We need a third party. There is need for a third party. There is no way we can get this problem solved without a third party. Otherwise, we will only keep playing this game of turning round and round and ending at the same spot.
Okay, yeah, Dr. Nick, you've been itchy to come in. I'm sure there are many things you want to add to what has been said already.
Yes.
My question to you is, Cardinal Paloun actually says that we are to blame for what has befallen us. we have to take responsibility for what we are living in Cameroon, and until we realize that we are at fault, then we can stand up and then chart a new way forward.
Yes, he's right in that respect. You know, God created a very beautiful country called Cameroon and put us, the humans, in this Garden of Eden. And it's those of us humans, because we don't love ourselves, we don't speak truth to ourselves, because we are greedy, because we are not creative, because our economics are bad and we don't know how to create wealth and opportunities, we begin to fight over the few resources and opportunities. That's the bottom line. So we have created our own problems, and we have to solve our problems. We must solve a problem. To solve the problems, we must have a change of mindset, a change of attitude, and the way we see it. And if things have gone so bad, it's because the devil has entered Cameroon. We are being ruled. The spirit of the devil is everywhere. The spirit of the devil is in the government. The spirit of the devil is in those people in the diaspora. The spirit of the devil is in the bush. When you start having people cutting other people's heads, that's the spirit of the devil. Odeshi is the spirit of the devil. Now, so we have to do something and clean ourselves of this evil. So the cardinal is right when he says that we've brought the evil on ourselves, and we have to clean ourselves of it. Now, that said, you know, in solving a problem, if we take the Anglophone problem and the different aspects that are going to go into solving the problems, you can give each aspect a coefficient. So dialogue is going to take 80% of the coefficient. Dialogue will take 80% of the coefficient. Then there will be the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that will take some other coefficients, okay? But so first, there must be a ceasefire, then a dialogue, and then after the dialogue, the Truth and Reconciliation and rebuilding and all those kind of things, they will just fall in place. So for each item, there is a truth to every item. So what I can see being mixed up is when we are talking about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Ms. Andifo is thinking that we are thinking that it is the truth from the truth, and the truth that will come out from the truth from the reconciliation that will be applied in the dialogue. No, there are two different things. We are dealing with two different aspects. The umbrella thing is the form of the state that has to be solved at the dialogue. How do we relate with each other? How do we do business? How do we live together, or whatever? That has to be solved. Once you have solved that, then we now drink a cup of water and say, but in reality, why did you slap me? You see, you understand? Why did you kill my brother? Please don't do that again. And then, you know, but because you did this, you need to pay reparation. You understand? That's how you solve it. Okay, I think we are brothers now. Where is that gone? Oh, I hid it under a plantain tree. Okay, bring it. Let's put it. No, so how do we go on? I didn't have something to eat with my kids. Okay, so how can I get a job for you? Or what do we do? Some industry, sometimes we build icon. That is how it goes. To everything there must be a truth. You understand? The people are not working. If you ask me what is the cause of this war after all this 1961, is economics. Economics in the sense that, you know, there's very little, and few people have grabbed that for themselves and their families, and everyone else is left in the cold. And therefore, even when we have solved this problem, we must do something about our economics. We must do something about our development. We must create opportunities for the youth. All these youth that are pouring out of universities are not jobs. Those are a bag of problems. We might be calling it the Anglophone problem now, but all those youth in East Cameroon here, if we don't do something for all the youth to have something, the country is going to go through another phase of violence. It's very, very important. I don't know whether I forgot something important, but we cannot oversay it. There must be a dialogue. And that dialogue would address the form of state that is acceptable for both parts, and it will be done by the Swiss talks, and where there will be a third party, whether the person is black or yellow or whatever, there must be a third party, and the bottom line is not the color of the person, it's truth.
Thing I wanted to add, you know, when they talk of what happened in Bamenda, people talk of it is positive, something great will come out of it. To me, I don't think something great will come out of it, though I stay positive. Why? Because, you know, this government has to first of all accept the fact that the Anglophones have a problem. And secondly, the another disadvantage to this is that the leaders of these separatist fighters are not in one accord. Both of them, each party has its own opinion. They present different plights. Some want federation, some want separation, and they are not in one accord. So I think that the first step to this problem, or to the solving of this problem, is that those separatist fighters, their leaders, should come to a compromise. They should agree on one opinion and present to the government, as Mr. Ngufo said, I don't know his name, Mr. Ndifo, and let the government to accept the fact that the Anglophones have a problem. They should accept to touch the most important part of that problem. Because what they are doing is
when you say the government, are you saying that the government is not admitting that there's an Anglophone problem? If not, why create a common law bench at the Supreme Court? Create a common law department there are many things that have been done. Is that not already acknowledging that Anglophones have a problem?
Mr. Kum, acknowledging the fact is not accepting to do it. You can know that there is a problem, but you refuse to solve the problem. Because what happened in Bamenda, to me, is a shortcut. The government wants to use a shortcut to bring solutions, or to bring, cosmetic solutions that will not be lasting, like what happened to the Major National Dialogue.
But Bamenda was just a visit.
It is a visit.
Why do you conclude that is already
it is a visit with a mission. Mm-hmm. Parolin is on mission here. He's on a mission to Cameroon. Mm-hmm. He brought a peace message to the Cameroonians, which was accepted by the president. Do you think that this man came to Cameroon just like that? They might have spoken with the president. Let us look for solutions, and let's look for cosmetic solutions that would not be lasting, because the government is good at doing that.
Massive.
Yes.
You were in the entourage of, but how worried is the cardinal is in Cameroon? He has declared that he's here for peace and reconciliation, though we don't know how that is going to be achieved. Is Akwe not also right to think that declaring peace and reconciliation will require practical steps to actually show the genuineness in this declaration?
Well, in my view, I think what we're talking on the table here has been spoken time without number.
Yeah.
And we all know the form of the state. We all know the genesis of this crisis. The lawyers and the teachers who went rampant on the street. And we should be looking forward and questioning, have there been any resolutions taken by the government? Did the government give any listening ears? Or are there any resolutions which were given or considerations to the genesis of the crisis? If we have to create this question and answer forum, it's going to take us the whole night here. But we are all abreast about the measures which have been taken in place, the progressive report and the resolutions which have been taken. I think at this juncture, we should be emphasizing much on ceasefire. That is actually where I look at it as a key problem for reconciliation and dialogue at this juncture. There should be a ceasefire. And where there is ceasefire, I think we should now be talking about reconstruction. Mm-hmm. The political visit here comes actually to support ceasefire and reconstruction. I think those are the two major visits. If some of us are looking at it as window dressing, diplomatic, political, then I would want to say we should, if we are, I trust that we all come from various denominations. We are all Christians. We have different religious backgrounds here. And the truth is we are entitled and submissive to one creator, which is God. And at this juncture, we got someone who have paid a visit, a holy visit, which we trust that if God exists, his visit has a vital role to play in the ceasefire and the reconciliation of Cameroon. Otherwise, we shouldn't trust in the Almighty, or lest we are not believers. That is how I look at it, and I trust that at this juncture, we should not be repeating what has already been said time without number. The greatest focus so far now
is on ceasefire.
Is ceasefire.
Okay.
Ceasefire.
Yes. The envoy from the Vatican also stressed on the need to end violence, because according to him, violence only creates more problems, and that we are in the situation where we find ourselves because we rather embraced violence and we are into it.
Yes, Mr. Liu, I think what he said is really true. Why I would say it is true is because if you actually want to do an experiment, I would say when there is fire burning, take a little bit of fuel and throw on it, you discover that it increases the flames. That is exactly what happens when violence begins and violence is responded with. If you look at the situation that happened by 2017, when some boys were killed, I think 4 were killed in the corner on the 28th of September, and on the 1st of October more were killed, and it later on degenerated. We later on heard that machetes had come out and started cutting heads, and later on we heard that there were den guns. Look at the situation in which we are right now in Cameroon. You discover that violence responded with violence generates more violence and creates more disaster. So that is the situation in which we have. And Mr. Leo, I'll always say most of the times the highest violence people face is practically in them. Somebody might stay quiet, closed mouth, but there is violence in the person that is more dangerous. And until that is dealt with, that is why I want to say
the
that
person who has not eaten, eh?
yes, that is where there is an issue. And like Dr. Nick rightly said, if you don't take care, even after this one is dealt with, if the real solutions are not put on the ground to deal with the economic situation of this country, forget it. There is going to be another crisis that will step
like
up.
the Tunisians. the Tunisians who took to the streets.
They are back on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
In 2011, they went on the streets because of their leaders. Now they have gone back to the street because of the same leaders. Why? Our leaders in Africa know how to play this game where they corner you and you believe that they have brought in a solution. The moment you are looking on the solution, they go back to where they were. And before you discover, you are back in the same pot soup. And listen, if we do not solve this problem, like I would say, we need to go to the root cause, which is the actual reason why people are dying. But I would say the true root cause of the problem is not the so-called federation that was actually dismantled. What is the true cause of this problem is the economic situation of the country, is the economics. The people are looking at their raw materials, which they have, which is not equally distributed, which some particular individual seems to be sitting on, and at the detriment of the entire nation. And so that is practically the main reason. It is an economic problem. And until that economic problem is dealt with, I bet you, even if we give a political solution to what we have right now, it will come back. And when it comes back, it will be worse than this one. So in my own humble opinion, I think that if the Cameroon government is going to do something that's going to help Cameroon, they should present to us strategies, economic strategies, which can put this nation at a height which everybody will feel happy and enjoy being a Cameroonian. You see, at the present moment as we are talking, there is a vision 2035,
yeah.
Which if you ask Cameroonians to tell you how we are going to arrive there, each Cameroonian will say it's not possible. Why? Because they are looking at evidence on the ground and seeing how ministers of this nation can take money. They take 6 years to tar a 70 kilometers piece of road, which will cost billions. In such a case, they are seeing how the wealth of the nation is being siphoned into personal pockets. They look at the petrol that is coming from Limbe. They cannot explain how the wealth, the money is being distributed and it's being used. When you go around looking at the various mineral resources, the timber, nobody can explain how it is being used. Those are the true problems that is the problem of Cameroon. I am speaking this. I know some people will say that the Anglophones have a problem, and I know that we have a problem. We have a problem, and the problem is that our mineral resources are being taken and nothing is given back to us which we can give, we can speak of. That goes back to say our true problem is economics, and until this government deals with that economic problem, Mr. Leo, we'll be back fighting another day.
Okay, before Richard, your last take on this program this evening. What do you expect the Cardinal to do practically as he is in Cameroon to give meaning to his visit? Practically speaking. Okay, seemingly Defoe is not there. Just can we try to reconnect with him? Practically speaking, Dr. Nick Ngwanya, what do you want to see the Cardinal who is in Cameroon do that will give hope to not only Cameroonians here, but those in the diaspora and almost everybody to think that he came to engage in peace and reconciliation?
No, if you're asking what the Cardinal would do, then we are asking the wrong question.
Okay.
The Cardinal comes to show us the way, that is the way to go.
Okay.
And it's for us to either go that road or not. He's not going to tie you like a horse, like tying a horse and then drag you that road. No. The bottom line is too many voices. What he has said is not new. There were too many voices, this voice, this voice, this voice, this voice.
Yes, given a direction.
Yes. Then the Pope sends a voice and says, this is the way. And he speaks the language of truth, and his sheep would hear his voice and follow him. He says, you are all confused, but this is the way to follow. But to think that he's going to take a rope and put on your necks and drag you on that way, no, that's not it. And the truth is very interesting. It is spoken once. He speaks it, he says, this is the way. He's not going to stay here in Cameroon and be beating the drums and speaking it every day for the 10. No. Just once. You speak it once and it's done. If you take it or you leave it. He's just spoke principles. Now, we have to begin to come back to something I've said before, and always keep in mind that wheel that we discussed here last time. We said that the way things work in the world, you have politics over here, you have economics over here, and then you have development here, all sitting on one wheel. And what spins that wheel around, the energy that spins that wheel around, is sound education. And I've had calls to explain to all of us that the education that we've had in Cameroon has been the wrong education, and the economics is not doing very well because we don't have the engineers and the savoir-faire to create wealth, to change our natural resources and add value to them. So our economics, the economics in Cameroon is very, very poor and primitive because of the kind of education we have in Cameroon. We don't have the capacity to transform our raw materials into finished goods, and therefore we keep spinning around in circles. That's why you see a lot of youths who leave the university, they're riding motorcycles. They're riding motorcycles because the education that they got is wrong. And therefore, as long as we continue to dwell on politics and don't do something to correct the politics and to correct the economics and the development, and that thing is getting in place the right education, we would solve the Anglophone problem. But even amongst the Anglophones, there will still be a problem because there will still be the wrong economics there. So we must address the economic problems and seek to be as good as South Korea. If we don't do that, it will be faulty.
Okay. Yes, the way forward, it is true, almost everybody is celebrating the coming to Cameroon of Cardinal Palerin, but that is not, like she says, that is not the final end to our search for a solution.
Yeah, I earlier indicated and still emphasized on this point that
we should pray
and
believe in God.
we should pray and believe in God. I think if we all know what meant by Amagon time, Amadagon time is a moment which is designated that the world shall come to an end. The dead shall rise and die again. Even the sinners shall rise and die. Even the righteous. That's what Armageddon time speaks in the Bible. So we are here talking about peace and reconciliation, where biblically we still know Jesus Christ said our people died for lack of knowledge. Like my co-panelist, Prof. Doctor, it indicated economic problems. It's true. We have the resources, and if we don't allow the future leaders of the territory we are clamoring for to acquire that knowledge, tomorrow, if they succeed moving to the Boya as a dream, what becomes of those resources? Who are those to manage the resources? Even at this juncture as we speak, the university cycle, I'm talking as an employer, which, honestly speaking, the wrong syllabuses are being introduced to the students today. That's why you find the rate of unemployment from graduates keep skyrocketing. So there is first a problem within the Anglo-Saxon cycle, which need to be redressed. I think it is high time we sit back upright, review ourselves, our strategies, and the government as well must have understood at this juncture that their resolutions to the pride of the Southern Cameroons mightn't have been the best, but at this juncture I think they must have reviewed and they are ready to impact and come up with lasting solutions.
Yes.
So our pride at this juncture is we need ceasefire. After ceasefire, I think that's a primordial step.
Okay.
Then we can now review and go back to the drawing board and come up with more concrete solutions for a better united Cameroon.
Yeah, you both is the diaspora also, are they not also making the job very complex with the different stance that groups are taking and not recognizing this one, saying this one is the fake, I am the real group? Are they not also making the whole issue complex?
Yes, Mr. Kum, that is why you will notice that Atanganji had the boldness to say that the government is winning the war, because the leaders of the separatist fighters are not in accord in their ideas. They are not together. There is a statement that says that with unity we stand, divided we fall. So I think that the Atanganji came out and said that because they are not united in their views. That still is one of the pivot to the difficulty of the solving of this problem. Because if we have different views, different ideas, and I bring my own idea to the government and they comply, and I decide to dialogue with them, the other party will continue fighting. It means that the leaders of these groups should come to a compromise. They should decide on one idea, on one opinion, and bring out to the government and say, we have decided that this is what we are going to talk about when we will organize the inclusive dialogue. And I want to speak also on the point of the visit of the envoy of the Vatican. You know, we are Africans, Mr. Kum, and we have forgotten about our African religion. You know, this Catholic Church, it is a religion that was brought to us by the Europeans, and we accorded to that, because I hear people saying that the visit of Paroline is something great will happen because it is a white man, because it's a Catholic Church. Why don't we believe in our African leaders, our African tradition? Why can't we go back to our African tradition and ask for solutions rather than putting our heads in the church, which is a foreign religion? You
think that the traditional rulers should be given a chance to help?
Yes, because we noticed when the chief of the Western region, Sokuju of Baminju spoke. He was like, they only there. They told him to close his mouth. Me, I believe that as Africans, we should go back to our African traditions. We should believe in our forefathers and forget about the white man. Because let me tell you, these guns that are scattered in the northwest and southwest region is being brought by these same white men. As Africans, we do not know guns. So I think that one of the possible solutions is that the leaders should give room to our African leaders and our traditions to come back so we can solve this problem and forget the Catholic Church.
She has a point and a serious point there that she has made. You know, Africa is the only continent whose ancestors were termed as wicked, as witches and wizards. I don't know why our own ancestors are witches and wizards, why those of the Chinese people were intelligent people, why those of the Americans were very... So, why? It is because of the same idea of religion. That's why I said the African man is so spiritual and so religious that he is willing at any given moment to take whatsoever comes. But I will say this, we are already in the state in which we are, where so far we have been, let me use the word, we have been brainwashed and brain dried to get to believe what we believe. And at the particular moment in which we find ourselves in, I believe that truth is in each and every one of us, and we can identify it, whether who is preaching it, whether it's coming from Europe or it's coming from Asia or it's coming from Africa. Truth is in each one of us. But the idea, Mr. Leo, of the separatists working together, you hear most of our brothers who say that this division is a strategy not to give Yaoundé the opportunity to create, to buy some of the leaders. That is what they have been saying for the past while. That this particular division you see today is working for the good of the fight. But I will be categorical in saying that is not at all good for the struggle, because if you truly are struggling for something and then you have so many heads, the truth is that you'll be forced to want to move to this direction, you want to move to this direction. As long as you have so many heads, you can't go far. A ship that is led by more than one captain will lack direction. And that is the problem in which this particular crisis has entered the state in which it entered. That's why you could hear somebody like Ebenezer Akwangwa, when he came out, he was furious because he thinks that the fight has taken a different direction because of the so many different directions that the separatists are taking. You also heard Ayabacho coming up to mention, I know somebody said that we made an error because he was struggling to strengthen his soldiers. Yeah,
he made a post on us today. Yes, I don't know why. Yeah, on social media.
Yeah, so with that statement,
they say we are sponsored by the state. I myself, I'm looking for money, please. If you know where the money is, tell me, I'll go and take it. So yeah, because we cannot be working every day to educate people, and the simplest thing for people to do is to say that we have taken money. I'm looking for the money.
When I saw it, Mr. Ali, I laughed and I just said the issue is most at times some of us, we are so, in fact, you see people who have been brainwashed, you can know from what they say. You see people who are actually, let me use the word brain dried. you can see what they say and know that they have been brain dried. So to my perspective, Mr. Leo, if this thing, if we must come to a place where the Cameroon government will listen, then there must be a uniting force.
Okay, there must be a uniting force. 3 minutes for you and for Richard, because we are out of time. What do you think is the way forward, both government and the separatists?
Yes, Leonard. Things have been hammering on the government for so long. Let me say a little word to the separatists. First of all, I want us to be very categorical. I would not want us to mix the separatists leading a movement that they started to representing the voice of the English-speaking Cameroonians as a whole. The separatists have claimed to themselves the monopoly of speaking for every single English-speaking Cameroonian, which is not correct. Because we all agree that we have a problem, that the English-speaking Cameroonians have a problem in Cameroon, which is what we have been talking about throughout this program. But we also know that the separatists are leading a group of radical part of this English-speaking Cameroonians. And not every English-speaking Cameroonians subscribe to this radical approach. It is true that when it initially started, so many English-speaking Cameroonians were backing this radical approach. But for some of us who have lived on the ground, who have experienced the situation firsthand, I can say that, or even without fear of contradiction, that a whole lot of people are gradually moving away from this approach because they have transformed themselves not to target the original people they were fighting against, but they have turned themselves to be fighting against the very people they claim to be protecting. And that is the reason why many people do not subscribe to their views any longer. Many people do not subscribe to this radical approach. But at the same time, all of us as Anglophones agree that there is a problem. And therefore, there is a need for us as Anglophones, I am not saying separatists, us as Anglophones, to come together and have a united front and have a single voice and a leader. Because as we speak, we are giving the government latitude, the excuse to say that who do I speak to? That is the excuse they've been using all along. Who am I talking to? Who do I talk to? Since you guys don't have a leader. And in this case, that is why I think that the all Anglophone conference that the Cardinal Tumi and the rest of them were leading in to hold in Boya was very, very important. Many people misconstrued that Anglophone conference. Many people did not even understand. They objected it without even understanding what the objective was. That was the best thing that would have happened for us Anglophones, for us to have come together, reconcile our opinions, have a...
Okay.
On the side of the government, let me just end, Leonard. On the side of the government, no matter how long we keep turning this thing around, no matter how long we keep employing cosmetic solutions to this problem, we are only going to be postponing the problem. We are only going to be wasting resources, wasting time. And at the end of the day, we are only going to come back on the same spot, like we did with the national dialogue. The national dialogue was a total waste of resources and time. I think that there is need for the government to be able to admit that there is something that is wrong and that there is a solution to that problem, and that solution to that problem need to come from us sitting down as two different parties and talk it out. And until we come to that point where we will sit down and have a conversation as to how to solve this problem, then we'll only keep turning round and round and round. And at the end of the day, we will not have this problem solved. And this issue of trying to think that by employing measures that will pacify the people will solve the problem is not the best approach.
Okay.
I think the government should cease using measures to pacify people and rather use measures to solve the root cause of the problem.
Okay, thank you, for Richard, Fulbright fellow at the University of South California.
Central Florida.
Central Florida. I'll take time to master it. Okay, thank you for participating in the program today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, and to you too, Dr. Nick, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Just to say again that this problem will be solved, and it will be solved by a new government, not this government. This current government cannot solve the problem because they have never accepted the problem, and when they were given the opportunity to solve the problem, they turn around in circles, and so they cannot solve the problem. It will be solved by a new government. And then also, just before I give you back the microphone, to say, let's correct a couple of things. There's nothing like an African God. There is only one God who made the heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. There's nothing like an African God. There's no African God that made the earth and the heaven. So let's stop mixing up things.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Mungwa.
Yeah, I strongly believe that not too long from now, our crisis will be resolved.
Okay.
Peace and stability has to regain.
Okay.
The smooth running of our activities. Let's Cameroonians trust and believe that the Almighty exists, and we are not too far from the end of our crisis.
Okay. Thank you to you, Ba Akwen, for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Kom. My last word goes, I want the government to give a chance to the Africans to solve their problems, to Cameroonians to solve their problems. Yes.
And also to you, Professor Mark Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Just to make a statement, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the God of the Jews. We have one God. He is not of the Jews. He is God of the universe. As long as I'm concerned, it is true that I read the Bible, I study the Bible, I preach the Bible. But when it comes to the African people, their God is the same God of the Jews, is the same God of the Gentiles, God of whatsoever. He is one God, not God of a particular group of people.
Okay. We also want to say thank you to you all who took time off to watch the program this evening, and to you, Eli and Desmond, and to you, Tabi. Brian, stay blessed. Bye-bye.